Spider-Man quoted Uncle Ben when he said, "With great power comes great responsibility." Good quote, huh? Good old Spider-Man. If you're just tuning in days later after today, just know we're near Halloween, so that's what's going on today. So we do have great power. The great saints and sages tell us that we are created in the image and after the likeness of Spirit, that we are expressions of God like a wave is an expression of the ocean. The way-showing teacher, Jesus the Christ, said the kingdom of God is within you. Within you. Is it not written, ye are gods? That's tremendous power. Tremendous power. And with great power comes great responsibility. Why? Because are we awakening to that power? How are we using that power? Right? By the law of attraction, which states that what you put out, you get back. Are we putting out the energy, the thoughts that we want to go forth and affect other people? Are we putting out the energy and the power that we want to come back into our lives? We have great responsibility. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so many people feel helpless as they look at the war going on in Ukraine and Russia. They feel helpless as they watch what's happening in Gaza with the Israelis and the Hamas. You know, people feel helpless. They feel sad. They don't know what to do. And some people are doing things. Grand Central Station was shut down Friday because of protests. And, you know, people do different things. And what I feel is very important is where our consciousness is makes a difference. That where we're vibrating, where our frequency is in our thoughts has an impact. Because if we're all connected through the one presence and power in the universe, then our thoughts make a difference. In the beginning of this series on Inspired, we talked about we're all cells in the one body. That there's one living being, as Miguel Ruiz, the author of The Four Agreements, talks about. We're one living being, and we're all cells in that one body. Well, if the cell in your hand is not good, if a part of your hand is not functioning, it affects the rest of your body, doesn't it? And if you are in wellness, if you're a cell in the body of humanity that is functioning from a high level of wellness, of peace and harmony, that has a positive impact on the rest of the body, doesn't it? And so that's what something that you and I can do is to tune in, to live in spirit. That's what we've been talking about. To live an inspired life is to live in spirit. Inspiration, in spirit. To live in spirit is to live an inspired life, and that helps to raise the frequency and raise the vibration. And if we feel guided to protest, if we feel guided to send letters, if we feel guided to become a politician, if we become guided to do something else in the world, then so be it. That's important to do. But it comes out of a place of our innate wholeness. It comes out of guidance. It doesn't come out of a place of brokenness. It doesn't come out of a place that I want to change and fix things because I feel bad. That's very different, isn't it? Wanting to change things because of how I feel, because I don't feel whole, because I feel bad, is very different than doing something because I'm guided to do it. This is mine to do. So I want to share with you some principles today on how we can live in spirit and be inspired in everything, How many of you would be excited about being inspired In everything that you do. Yeah, in everything. That's ideal, isn't it? And the first fundamental, as Dr. Dyer points out, is to know that I am a divine creation. I'm a divine creation. How could you not be? You came out of God, right? You came out of the Creator. If you came out of the Creator, you must be divine. Many people think of God being out there somehow, that somehow God created everybody and everything, and somehow there's a separation. No, it came out of the Creator. Everything is coming out of the Creator. We're all part of it. We're part of this one divine pie. You're a piece of it. I'm a piece of it. And so our responsibility is to tune into that. I am a divine creation. All creation is purposeful. I am here to be God. I'm going to say that again. I'd like you to say it with me, please. I am a divine creation. Together.
I am a divine creation.
All creation is purposeful.
All creation is purposeful.
I am here to be God.
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 Now, I'm guessing, based on experience, that when you said, I'm here to be God, there were some people who said that and they had a hard time saying that. They're uncomfortable with that. It's hard to even say it. I'm guessing. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. I just know that's probably the case. Because we've been so conditioned, especially if you were raised in traditional Christianity, you'll probably be, I'm glad I wasn't. I was raised Jewish. My parents thought I was Jesus Christ. So, understanding and claiming and embracing that I am a part of God. I am a part of God. Now, when a traditional Christian says, you think you're God, that's what the devil's going to do. The devil's going to make everybody think they're God and all that. You're not the ocean being the wave. You're the wave. You're part of the ocean, right? We're not saying we created the universe. We're saying we're part of the wholeness of all of it. That's very different. And so knowing that truth and not doubting it. One of the questions that comes up for people whenever we talk about purpose is, what if I don't know what I should be doing? What if there's nothing that really turns me on? What if there's nothing that gives me bliss and I don't know what I should be doing? How many of you have ever had that thought in your head? What should I be doing? I don't know what I should be doing. What does God want me to do? What is my mission? I don't know. How many of you have spent a lot of money taking workshops and reading books, trying to find out, what is my mission? How many of you all have consulted plenty of psychics to try to ask them? Or medical intuitives, or whatever they call themselves, right? I'm not saying anything against that. I've done some of that myself. But how many of y'all have consulted other people trying to find out, what should I be doing with my life? Now, I don't know about you, but when I have someone else tells me what I should be doing with my life, I always question it. How many of you have been there and know that? You're like, really? I don't know. Yeah, so we're gonna try to support you with the answer to that question today. I hope you will pay attention now. Pay attention. All right? So we just said, I am here to be God. I'm here to be God. What does that mean? Doesn't mean you have to strive to try to be God. You are an expression of God. I am an expression of God. We're here to know that, to discover that. Now, how do you do that? By aligning our thoughts as much as possible with who we are. That's what we're talking about. I'm here to be God. That is like a compass. It's like, okay, what is God like? What is God like? God is kind, God is peace, God is joy, God is wisdom, God is loving, God is generous. So, what can I do in my thoughts to align myself with what God is? And as Dr. Dyer says, that is to live in inspiration. That is what you're here to do. To align yourself with your God nature. And guess what? Everything else will unfold. How many of you would like to live your life in relief, not constantly trying to figure out, what am I here to do? What am I supposed to do? What is, oh God, my fortune cookie didn't say anything about what I'm here to do today. How many of you open a fortune cookie waiting for that guidance? What am I supposed to do? You don't have to do that anymore. You're here to wake up and know your divinity, to be God, to align your thoughts like God, to align your behaviors with God. And if there's something in particular that you're here to do, you'll be shown and guided to do it. We're going to talk about that more. But as Dr. Dyer says, he says you're here to bring inspiration to everything. Bring inspiration to everything. He says on page 54 in the book Inspired, our job is to be as much like the source of all being as we can. And the nagging questions about what inspires us and why we're here dissolve in this grand desire. Wow. The journey to feeling purposeful and inspired begins by seeking to be like God in all of our thoughts and actions. That you can be inspired every day in everything we do. Everything we do. Why? Because what is inspiration? It's spirit expressing. It's God being you. So, claiming I'm a divine creation. I'm here to be God. I'm here to be God. Can you be God when you wake up in the morning? Yes or no? Can you be God drinking your cup of coffee or tea or green matcha tea, what have you? Can you do that? Can you be God when you are walking the dog? Can you be God if you're a sanitation engineer? Can you be God if you're a doctor? Can you be God if you're a police officer? You can be God in anything, can't you? It's independent of what you're doing. You can be God as a hairdresser. It doesn't matter. And when we are truly in tune with that spirit, we can bring inspiration to everything. Can you think of a higher goal than that? I mean, can you think of anything better than being inspired in everything? No. What's heaven about? You believe in Jesus, then you die and you go to some place where they're playing all your favorite hits with milk and honey and all that stuff. That's high glycemic living. You don't want all that. Unhealthy. It's unhealthy. So, accepting our divinity. Next, for how do we be like God? Be a being of sharing. Another way is a being of giving. Being a being of service. Mother Teresa, there was a wonderful quote. She said, if you want to be like God, if you want to be joy and love like God, you got to give like God. You got to love like God. You got to be in your thoughts. In our thoughts. Wayne Dyer, I love this take on the law of attraction. Because we're all familiar with, visualizing what you want, putting pictures on poster boards, and so on, and imagining what it is you want, and so on. We're all familiar with that, with the law of attraction, right? A treasure map, a vision board. We're all familiar with it. Nothing wrong with that. Here's what maybe isn't emphasized enough. We must also become a being who's more focused on sharing than on receiving. This universe works on the law of attraction. So this is very interesting. Listen to this. So the more we shift the focus from our desires to wanting more, let me reread that. So the more we shift the focus from our desires to wanting more for others, the richer we become. Should I read that again? This universe works on the law of attraction. So the more we shift the focus from our desires to wanting more for others, the richer we become. When we tell the universe to gimme, 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 it responds in like fashion, and we find ourselves feeling put upon and out of balance. But when we ask the universe, how may I share? It will ask, how may I share with you? You are a being of sharing, and I return the same energy back to you. I think that's a really powerful prosperity principle expressed right there. And if you read Dr. Dyer's writings in the second half of his books that he's written, he really got more and more into how may I serve? How may I share? How can I give? Because that's being like God. That's how Spirit is. Spirit gives just because that's Spirit's nature, right? We're all here on the planet because Spirit brought us here. Because, we all have stuff. We're on this planet with all kinds of things happening because God has given us this opportunity. Expressing as us. Spirit is seeking to experience life through and as us. And so we can align ourselves with Source by being a being of sharing. That doesn't necessarily mean only money or things. It can be a smile. It can be a compliment. It can be a kind word. It can be opening a door for someone. It can be any number of ways. It's thinking in terms of, how may I share? Why? Because as the Wayshower teacher said, as you give, so do you receive, right? As you put out the energy, it comes back to you. Aligning ourselves with the infinite abundance of the universe. And what is that? It's a habit of thinking. It's a habit of seeing ourselves as a being of sharing. I'm like, well, I don't feel like sharing. I don't feel like giving. I don't feel like doing that. Well, then you are repressing your good. You are blocking the flow in your life. You're out of tune with your nature. So the question is, and again, it's not about pleasing Spirit. God doesn't need us to do it for God. We don't do it for a being out there. We do it because it's our nature to give, you see. It's our nature to be a being of sharing. We do it to unlock the truth of who we are, not the conditioning that we've programmed ourselves into, which is, I got to get what I can. Right? That's the conditioning of a lot of people in the world, isn't it? Me first. I got to get what I can. Now, don't hear me say that you should sacrifice your well-being for other people. I'm not saying that. Some of you grew up with that. That you should deny your needs of exercise, of nutrition, of having some time for yourself, having some quiet time, having some play time, having some whatever you need. We're not saying that. We're saying just developing that. All of that, by the way, can be done with an attitude of service. The late Swami Satchidananda used to say, everything can be done with an attitude of service. I'm watching this movie this afternoon because it helps me rest, it helps me recharge so that I can be of greater service to people when I'm, tomorrow or this week. I'm going out and exercising today so that I can have more energy because I feel better, I'm more vibrant, I'm more joyful, I'm better able to do the work that I can do to make a difference for other people. everything can be done with that attitude of sharing and service, right? So it's a shift in how we think. It's not a shift in having, I got to be this self-sacrificing person. No. It's a change of our thought process, a change aligning ourselves with Source. And it can be that question of, how may I serve? How may I share? What are you guiding me to do, Spirit? That's really what it's all about. I'm here to be God. Let God be God as me. What is God calling me to do? What is calling me to be? So accepting our divine nature, being a being of sharing, having a dialogue with Spirit. A dialogue with Spirit. I like what Dr. Dyer does. He takes a few minutes after he wakes up. I've started doing this a few weeks ago as well, in addition to a regular meditation time. Just wait when you wake up, just talking to God, talking to Spirit. And he asks Spirit, what are your plans for me today? What is your guidance for me today? And frequently he hears a way that he's meant to share that day. Frequently he'll hear, call so-and-so up or do something nice that has nothing to do with you. It's no strings attached. That's real giving, isn't it? Real giving is no strings attached. Like a flower shedding its fragrance. It doesn't expect anything in return. It just lets its beautiful fragrance go forth. True giving is there's no strings. I'm doing this because I want to do it. I'm guided to do it. Giving with something attached to it, I'm giving to you, I expect a thank you, I expect appreciation, I expect something in return. That's not giving, that's business. Right? That's business. It's an agreement, really. And people use that one all the time, quid pro quo. I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. Okay, that's fine in capitalism. That's how business works. Even in close relationships, if you're giving, and the other person's not giving, that can become old. And, unless you're Mother Teresa, of course you wouldn't be in the relationship with your Mother Teresa. But, that can get old. You got to use good judgment and wisdom as to your giving. Mother Teresa was a tough cookie. She was a tough cookie. But her giving was for God. So being a sharing and having a dialogue with Spirit. Talking to Spirit. You need an answer to something. You need guidance to something. Go within. Go within. He talks about solving problems from a place of deficit thinking, where you feel weak and insecure, and then that person tends to go to others and, what do you think I should do? What should I do? What do you think I should do? Versus going in from a place of wholeness, going within and seeking what is guidance from your source. Dialoguing with Spirit, asking Spirit what you ought to do. What is the right thing to do? Now moving from that place, the place of wholeness, place of inner guidance and direction. Make sense? Stay open. Stay open. When you are living in Spirit, things will happen, right? There will be things that will happen in your life that you can't plan. You don't know they're going to happen. And you may get a project, you may do something that will add to your inspiration, that will help open you up even more to even greater inspiration, right? For instance, Gail Beal, who was practicing repeating a sacred word every day, was called japa. She was repeating a sacred word. You take the word love, or you take the word God, or you take the word Om, or Spirit, or whatever, peace, and you repeat it over and over throughout the day. I believe that's one of the practices of, like, if you were raised Catholic, the rosary. You're repeating a spiritual phrase over and over and over. Of course, the the motivation may be different. I was at the ATM machine the other day, and this man was listening to a spiritual thing on his phone. And it was like, if you do a certain number of prayers, at night, then you're going to be forgiven of your sins. And if you do this number of prayers, you're going to be forgiven of this and that. I like, oh my goodness, what a slave you become, right? You become a prisoner to God. It's like, I've got to do all these different things in order to get God's favor. No, God doesn't need your favor. God doesn't need you to say prayers over and over and over again. She is complete in and of herself. She's completely happy and content and is giving us the gift of life here. Whatever prayers we do is not for God, it's for us. It's to help wake us up. There's a Sanskrit word for prayer, which is palal, to behold oneself as wondrously made. Prayer, mantra, japa puts you in tune, in sync with your divinity, as opposed to worry, fear, guilt, doubt, shame, and all that stuff. Right? I don't want you feeling guilt, though, about feeling guilty. Oh no, I'm having fearful, now I'm not in tune with God. Oh no, what's going to happen? I feel so guilty about it. No, you notice it, and then you pick yourself back up, you dust yourself off, you say, let me get back in spirit. Let me let myself feel what's coming up and let it go. Let me let it go. So, when you are living in spirit, Gail Beal, get back to her, she was practicing japa, and she went to Kenya. And while she was in Kenya, she met this 8-year-old orphan. And while she was sitting on the ground, Gail, the 8-year-old came and sat in her lap. And all of a sudden, Gail heard a voice said, take her home. She turned around to see where the voice came from. Nobody there. She heard the voice again, take her home. Because she'd been practicing for a long time and following guidance, she went to her 18-year-old daughter. She said, what do you think about adopting this girl? And her daughter immediately said, go for it. Go for it. So she explained that a few years before, she had heard Spirit guide her, telling her to sponsor some workshops. And at the time, she questioned it. Is that Spirit? She made pros and cons. Do I really want to do this workshop? Do I really want to sponsor these workshops? And then finally, she felt restless. So she went ahead and did the workshops and raised $10,000. She made $10,000 with little work and little time. Guess how much it was to adopt this little girl from Kenya? $10,000. $10,000. So she was just going about her business. She wasn't looking to adopt somebody. But because she was living in tune with Spirit, she heard that voice. And when she brought the girl home, she said, she named her Nellie, gave her the name Nellie. She said, Nellie brought so much love into our home, an abundance of love, an abundance of love. So when we are in tune with Spirit, we never know what could happen. Now, some of you might be feeling, oh my gosh, I don't want to adopt somebody. What if God asked me to do something I don't want to do? Right? One of my questions is, why did you have to name her Nellie? Why didn't you just use the name she had? But anyway, what if God asked me to do something I don't want to do? I think that's an important dialogue to have with yourself. It's an important dialogue to become clear on what maybe have conditions with yourself about what are you willing to do, what are you not willing to do. You have to work with where you are, right? If Spirit spoke to you, what things might come up? What are your conditions on what you're going to do and what you're not going to do? I think that's an important thing to have with yourself, to be able to meet yourself where you are and to be able to accept yourself where you are. It will facilitate being able to really start to hear guidance, possibly for you. So the point is, it may be a project that comes your way. It might be a new job. You might feel guided to move somewhere else. You might be guided to start a business, or it might be something unrelated to work. It might be something like writing a book. It might be something like, as he says, buying a plot of land and building a vacation home there that you go to every now and then. It might be buying a horse and taking up horseback riding. Who knows? And that will contribute to inspiration for you in your own life. You see, but you're not, what should I be doing? I hear a beep going on. It might be answering the phone to the President of the United States. So the point is, when you're living in spirit, you are guided. You're guided to do what you need to do instead of, oh, I'm bored, I'm listless, I don't feel inspired. What should I be doing to feel inspired? No, you're living in spirit. You're bringing your inspiration to whatever you do. As Dr. King said, if you're a street sweeper, be the greatest street sweeper you can be. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Bring it. As Michael Singer says, when you unblock yourself, when you get rid of all that stuff that's inside of you, you're going to feel greater joy, greater passion, greater love, and you're going to be inspired no matter what you do. You're going to wake up in the morning and go, hey, I'm alive again. What is in store for me today, Spirit? What do you got in store for me today? So knowing I'm a divine creation, being a being of sharing, staying open to however God guides you, however the universe guides you, paying attention to the signals, paying attention to how Spirit might be guiding you, tapping you on your shoulder, going, hey. And if you feel restless because this message keeps coming to you and you're not following it, maybe that's a signal to pay attention and go, okay, maybe I better give this a shot. And then lastly, have a vision. Have a vision of yourself living in spirit 100% of the time. Have a vision of you living in spirit 100% of the time, feeling good 100% of the time. As Muktananda said, when you're feeling good, you're feeling God. When you're feeling good, you're feeling God. How many of you, have you ever had the experience where you were inspired to do something and you did it and you're so happy you did? Has anybody had that? And have you had the experience of not doing it and then feeling, oh God, I wish I had done that. I should have done that. Or I could have done that. I like the word could better. You've had that experience too, right? Well, have a vision of yourself as someone who is keeping their mind on spirit during the day, even more than you are. Have a vision of being a person who knows what your guidance is, who is a person who is confident following their inner guidance. Have a vision of yourself who turns within for guidance from spirit, from source, so that you can be inspired in all things and not so dependent on externals and, let's have a vision of ourselves that way and let go of any negative visions that you have of yourself, right? Ram Dass, apparently, in one of his books, he talks about how at one point and later in his life, he imagined, what would it be like if I were old and struggling? And according to the story, when he started to visualize what would it be like if I were old and having physical problems, that's when he had a stroke. So remove those images of what you don't want to be. Remove the images and the fear images of becoming what you don't want to be. let those go and focus on what you do want to experience. Focus on how you do want to be, how you do want to be healthy, how you want to be strong, how you want to be mobile, how you want to be financially resourceful, how you want to have a quiet sanctuary without beeps going off as you're talking. You know, hold the vision of what you would like to have in your life. All right? So let's close with Emerson, who said this. We are very near to greatness. How many of you feel near to greatness? You better raise your hand. I want to see all your hands up. You at home, raise your hand. You're very near to greatness. We are very near to greatness. One step, and we are safe. Can we not take the leap? That's living in spirit, living in inspiration. Let's get still. Thank you, Father, Mother God, for your presence and activity in our lives. Thank you for the reminder that we are of you, that we are a divine creation. We are your presence, living itself as us. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you for the inspiration and the strength to keep moving forward. Thank you for filling us with your presence in a greater degree, unblocking us, helping us to heal so that we can live with greater passion and inspiration in every area, in every moment. Thank you for inspiring us. Thank you for healing us. Thank you for guiding us. Thank you for helping us become a being of sharing, to changing our thoughts so that we can think more and more, how can I share? How can I serve? Knowing that in that very thought, in those very behaviors, we are opening out a way for your abundance to flow. Thank you for this truth, for this reminder, and for your guidance and direction in all that we do. And so it is. Amen.